Hello and welcome to this course on learning Oracle Visual Builder from scratch. This course is specifically designed for the professionals who are learning Visual Builder for the first time and from scratch. In this course, we will cover in brief what are the resources available for Oracle Visual Builder. We will look at the community, forums, YouTube channel official from Oracle, and also the documentation. If we get stuck somewhere while designing or developing applications or web pages, layouts, components in Visual Builder, we can always reach out to community. We can check out YouTube tutorials, blogs, and also the documentation by Oracle. I will be creating this course in order to learn VBCS from scratch. Suppose if you don't know JavaScript, you don't know CSS, you don't know HTML, not to worry. It is good to know all those things, but if you don't know, not to worry. We will try to create all the applications or the web pages in this course with the help of low-code Visual Builder design runtime browser-based design environment going ahead. In this course, we will learn the concepts with the help of creating a sample web page. So at the time of publishing this course, I have created a section wherein we create a employee search web page, where a user can enter the details for employee ID or a salary and get the results appropriate to the search criteria in the form of table layout. While we design this web page, we will learn various concepts in Visual Builder like the business objects, layouts, flows, shell, JavaScript we'll learn, and a lot of other stuffs. As we move ahead in our journey, we will add few more sections in this course. Not to worry if you don't find all the concepts, all the sections at the time of publishing the course right away, but we will try to add the concepts or the sections as and when we complete creating the content for the subjects. Coming to the classes covered in this tutorial, we will learn in brief what is Visual Builder. As I told, we will try to learn what are the forums, blogs available. If you are stuck while creating or developing Visual Builder application, we can always reach out to those forums or refer the documentation. At the time of publishing the course, as I told, we will be having this employee search app where the user can enter the details and get the details for the employee. While building this search app, we will learn various concepts available in Visual Builder application from scratch. Going ahead, we will cover various concepts like we are going to enhance our employee search app. We are going to create multiple web pages. Then we will create a navigation. We will do lot of stuff within the application when we enhance this application. Also, we will learn how we can communicate with Oracle Fusion Cloud application. Also, we will look at how we can connect to any other REST APIs with the help of service connections. We will try to talk to other backends like the Fusion SCM, CRM or supply chain management with the help of inbuilt features available in Visual Builder. Also, we will update this course as and when new features are added into Visual Builder by Oracle. So now the question will arise, why do we need to watch this tutorial or why do we want to enroll to this course? At the end of this tutorial, you will gain basic knowledge or the skill what you want to create Visual Builder based applications. You will be comfortable in creating pages, flows, you will be comfortable in creating the layouts, you will be comfortable in making use of Visual Builder layouts and the components in order to create eye-catchy web pages. Also, you will learn how we can communicate with Fusion application, REST APIs, how we can integrate with Oracle integration, how we can create workflows with the processor, how we can integrate databases and any other cloud-based application or on-premise with the help of integration. We would like to thank you for watching this course introduction and we hope that you liked the introduction for this course, and please do enroll for this course and join us in your learning Oracle Visual Builder journey. Thank you once again and happy learning. For any query concern, please write to us at bnum.apps@gmail.com. In this class, we are going to look at the documentations and various resources available for Oracle Visual Builder, because those resources are very useful when we go ahead for development and we create actual web pages or web applications for our customers. One of the best way to find the Oracle Visual Builder documentations is with Google or any other search engine. I am currently using google.com. So here I am searching Visual Builder Oracle Docs. If you click on this first link, that is Oracle Visual Builder Get Started. So it is under docs.oracle.com cloud platform. Click on this. Clicking on this, you will get few of the options over here under Start Here. So you can learn how to create a web application with the help of workshop. There is a separate workshop for this available. How to create a mobile application workshop and also a crash course video. You can have a look at this. Also, you can set up your service. That is, you can subscribe to a subscription or the trial version and set up your Visual Builder environment. And also, if you scroll down, there is a community. You can post the questions if you are stuck anywhere in the community page. You can have a look at this. Also, there is a blog where the developers or the creators create the content and post in this blog for the various Visual Builder applications they work on. Also, there is a channel, dedicated YouTube channel over here. You can click on this. Also, there is a cookbook for Visual Builder. You can go to this cookbook and you can find various layouts and the components which are available for consumption in Visual Builder cookbook. I will click on this cookbook once. So here is the Visual Builder cookbook. As Visual Builder is built on top of Oracle Jet, this Jet is nothing but a framework. It's not a framework, it's not a library. Rather, it is the toolkit which uses a lot of frameworks and the libraries and makes the life easy for web developers, so that we can drag the components into Visual Builder application components page and we can create the layout, patterns, input controls, data grids, lot many stuff with the help of drag and drop feature available in Visual Builder. We will learn in detail how we can do as we go ahead in this course. I'm closing this cookbook page. Also, there is Visual Builder Studio videos playlist. This we won't focus much in this course because VB Studio is much like a CI/CD purpose. Also, you can launch a Visual Builder from within the VB Studio as well as from the Oracle Integration Cloud instance as well. We'll learn both the approaches in our next section. Also, there is a Oracle University course on this. This is of great interest for beginners or the freshers in order to get the environment for free of cost. Suppose if you create a Oracle trial account, you need to have a credit card. Most of the freshers or professionals at the beginning of their career, they don't have credit card. So this will be a boon for beginners to get an instance for learning Oracle Visual Builder. Let me go back to Google search results, and the second option what it had shown is get started with Visual Builder. This is documentation. I'm clicking on this. So this page is having lot of stuff on documentation for Oracle Visual Builder in Oracle integration. You can have a look at this. If you expand this develop, so the basics will tell what is Oracle Visual Builder and why it is used and the features in brief. In development, you can look at how to develop a web app, design a page, all those stuff, business object, how to connect with services, how to test and debug an application, how you can integrate with processes, common use cases. You can take up the common use case and build the solution by looking at these common use cases once you complete this course. And also there are few FAQs on troubleshooting as well, and the management, how you can manage and optimize your build and audit your code using Grunt. All those things are available over here. I will give the link for all those stuffs in the description or under the resource section of this course. In this class, we will learn in brief what are the features available in the browser-based development environment of Oracle Visual Builder. Not to worry, we will learn in detail how we can create an application, how we can navigate to Visual Builder applications page from Oracle integration as well as from the Visual Builder instance as well. Right now, we will just focus what are the features available so that when we go ahead in the classes for the course, you will be comfortable once you listen all those terms ahead. Let me close the welcome screen. So if you see on the left side, we are getting a bunch of options. You can select this and start your mobile application journey. You can click this plus mobile application and you can start building the web pages specific to mobile applications. If you see, the second option is web application. This is for the larger screen devices like the laptops, computers or the tablets. You can make use of this and click on this web application. You can build the flows, you can build the various pages and do lot of many stuffs with the help of this. If you see the services, with the help of service connections, we can connect to REST APIs, we can connect to any backend system like the database, ORDS systems, We can connect to Fusion applications, any applications which is exposed over REST. If you are connecting to SOAP based services, then it's always a good practice. We communicate with SOAP services with the help of integration, and that integration service we configure here with the help of service connection. So service connection is basically used to connect to services with the help of REST APIs. Coming to business objects are something like a database. If you are coming from a EBS or SQL background, then business objects are exactly similar to database, where the data will be stored in row wise and column format. And if you are coming from a SOA background, this is something similar to a lookup, more like a database, but you can relate it to lookup as well, where we can have application specific runtime data available anytime in this business object. Coming to the components. So in general, there will be limited number of layouts or the components which will be available in web applications when we actually create the application. Suppose if you want to make use of any other component which is available in oj, then you can browse for that over here and you can click on install. It will install that extension and you can make use of that, like the card footer, card action, data grid and all those stuffs. And installed, it will show the bunch of components which you have installed from these extensions or the components. If there is any update available for that particular installed component, then it will show over here. You will get a button. On click of that, it will update, and if there is any conflict with the runtime environment what you are using, it will display over here. So if you click the last section that is recommended, it is recommended to use all those stuffs from Oracle. It will display it over here. Again, to highlight, Oracle Visual Builder is built on top of Oracle Jet. Oracle Jet is not a framework, not a library. It is a toolkit, or you can say the combination of frameworks and the libraries with the help of which it makes the life of developers easy in building web pages or the web applications. Going to processes. Right now, it's not configured for me to communicate with process. Suppose if you have launched this Visual Builder instance from an integration OIC environment, then you will have option to communicate with the process, where you can initiate a human workflow or any other workflow which requires any intervention from human or a machine. That flow you can do it over here. Suppose a person applies for a leave, it will go to manager can approve, then that workflow will go ahead, something like this. Or a loan approval system for a banking client, it would be a ticket booking app. All those stuff which requires human intervention, we can build a lot of things here with the ease. And the last thing is source. Coming to source, it will show the source files. As Oracle Visual Builder is a low code development environment, all those source for the code what it generates when we drag and drop the component will be stored in this JSON files, package, grunt files and all. You can have a look at this. Also, we will cover in brief in some of the classes going ahead in this course, what does this files content look like and why it is used. Also, if you see, there is a preview. So whenever we use the term let's preview this application, it means we click on this preview, it will open the application in a new browser window. It is similar to like when we create any HTML page in a notepad, save it. If you want to test, we open that file in browser window. It's similar like this. It will open the preview. It's not a live. It will just be available till the time you are keeping your instance open. Once you close your application, that instance will go off. We will also learn how we can stage and publish the application so that you will get the live application, which is the actual application URL. That URL will be accessible for production environments as well, because it will be always live. It's not a development. So this preview is solely for the development purpose. So here there are few options to undo, redo, etc. Suppose you did some mistake, then you can go back to previous statement. Also, there is an option to Git. We can connect this to Git repository as well, which comes out of the box with Oracle Visual Builder. Also, you can configure others as well. If you click on this settings, there are few options like we can import an application, export the current application. You can go to the documentation, getting started, which we had seen. Cookbook is available. Also, this had seen in our previous video. Help, if any, we can do. Discussion forums, all those things we had seen in our previous class. And the setting, we can learn in detail what is this setting, how we can stage this application, publish, all those stuff is available over here. If you click on this, you will get the option for settings and certificates, where you can import the certificates if you want to communicate with any application. So this was in brief overview on the low code development environment or the designer environment for Oracle Visual Builder. In this class, we will learn in brief what are the various terminologies or the concepts available in web application when we build the web pages. Again, we will learn in detail how to create the application, how to create the web app in this course going ahead in the various sections. I want you to know the basic terminologies and the concepts so that it will ease in developing the web pages ahead in this course. So whenever you create an app, that is the web application, there will be a default flow created. A flow can have multiple pages. This is a page, that is a main start. So as you can see, a page can have various things like actions. This is like a events. Event listener will have a lot of actions. Like suppose on click of a button in HTML, if you want to do various things. So on click is an event, and the various things what you do is action. We will define a lot of actions what that event has to do. Then there is a type. So in order to create a variable, we must define a type. Like suppose I am naming a variable as xyz, and that xyz could be an array, it could be a other type of variable. So that we can define over here. So just to tell you, when we define a type, we can create from custom. If you want to create from an endpoint, that option is also there. Coming to variables, when we create a variable, there is an option to create it a simple variable with a primitive data type like a string, boolean, array, numbers, objects or strings. And there are few custom or the component data providers like the array data provider, SDPs and multiple service data providers. So we will look at how we can do all those stuffs, and other variables what we create will be visible over here. We can create a variable and we can refer to use that variable as a source for that. All those things we will learn. Also there is an option to create a JavaScript. Suppose there is some functionality what we cannot achieve, that piece of code we can write with the help of JavaScript. Here there is a JSON code available for whatever we do over here in the app. In the settings, this import will show you what and all components we have used. Like the components, if you are importing any other component from the extension or the components tab, we need to define over here, or whatever you drag and drop in the page, it will be displayed over here. It says so and so imports we have done for building the web application. So under fragments, this fragment is responsible for creating a reusable code. We can create a code once over here. Code, I mean the web page, a portion of a page like displaying an ad or a footer or a header. Like here in this case, we have created for a footer and a header. So that is a fragment, and we can use that fragment when we create the page in all the pages. Like create once and use everywhere. Like this is a fragment and this is a fragment. So under resources, you will see a lot of things like the actions, components. We can import the components. We can write our own CSS. If there is no specific styling what we can get with the inbuilt Oracle classes for object, then we can come over here under apps.css and we can write our own CSS or a styling logic. If you want to import our company image or any other image which we are going to use while building application, we can do it over here. There is a JavaScript file over here, and the strings, this is used for localizing or creating a generalized strings. We can create a string over here in apps.string.json and we can refer it with this name wherever we want to. Coming to the root page, so this shell page is responsible for creating the skeleton of a page. So what I meant by shell is, I will minimize this layout. So what you see over here, the header and the footer. So this is created in shell. Whatever you create in shell, it will be visible across all the pages, whatever we create in this web application. Create over shell. If you want to modify this header footer, we have to always come to shell and modify, and it will visible in all the pages. Suppose we create a plus button and create a page or a flow, it will visible in all the pages. So one more thing, if you want to change the normal behavior of a web application, you have to go to shell, go to settings. Here there is an option to select the flow. It will instruct this application or the web server whenever we share the URL of this application to someone. It will tell which flow to invoke. Here it's main, as I have only one flow, that is main. It will tell that is main is the default flow. If I go to main, here it will again tell which is the default page. Go to settings. As it tells, default page is main start, so it will invoke main start. So anytime we share the URL, it will start this main start page itself in this application. If you want to change, we can change when we create other pages in this application. And one more thing, the variables types we can define at the flow level, we can define at the page level, and also at the application level. The scope of those variables created at app level will be visible across all the pages and the flows, and the flow level, that particular variable will be available for that particular flow. If we have other flow, in that we won't be visible that variable. At the page, the variables created in this page will be only visible over here, and it won't be visible across other pages. Suppose if you want to drag any component, there are available components over here. You can have a look. Like for creating a heading, we don't have to go to HTML and write the code. As I told, this is a low code environment. Just drag and drop it over here. Like this, we can drag and drop the heading. Also, we can go to the code view, and also here also we can drag and drop the heading. Like suppose I want to drop the heading after this. What I will do is I will give enter over here, drag and drop it over here. This will create a heading. We can go back to design. And we can check. Also, if we select any component what we drag and drop, we will get a lot of properties on the right side. We can change the styling, the classes. There are inbuilt clauses over here. We can select one. We can always go to OJ documentation to know what all those classes does. There is an event, other stuffs we will learn in our classes going ahead. This was in brief to make you comfortable with the variables, terminologies, and how to work with any applications in Visual Builder we have shown. In this class, we are going to learn how to set up Visual Builder Studio in order to work on Visual Builder applications. I am here in the official documentation page by Oracle on administering Visual Builder Studio. There is a table of contents provided on the left hand side. So from here, if you want to know what is Visual Builder Studio, we can have a look at this. Visual Builder Studio is a robust application development platform. This will help your team effectively to plan and manage your work throughout all stages of app development life cycles, that is from design, build, test and deployment. So there are a few more details on Visual Builder Studio. You can have a look at this. Now in brief, we will look at how to configure or create a Visual Builder Studio instance. So there are a few prerequisites provided over here. You must be having an Oracle Cloud account. You must be having an administrator role, or you must be having some privileges with which you can create an instance. So in order to create a VB instance, there are a few steps provided over here. We'll now go through this one by one. So first step is we need to log into this cloud.oracle.com with our tenancy or Oracle Cloud account name. Let's go to Oracle Cloud instance. I have already logged into my Oracle Cloud instance. If you don't know how to log into your tenancy or Oracle Cloud account, we have created a separate class on this. Please check out that class for more details. So once you are here in the login page, we need to click on this left top corner, that is menu button or the hamburger menu. And if you scroll down, there is an option called OCI Classic Services. You need to click on this. On clicking on this, we will get a bunch of options from here. We need to click on developer. So same steps are mentioned over here. We need to click on this navigation menu. Then we need to go for OCI Classic Services and go for developer. That is this one. So once the developer page opens up, as you can see, I am already having an instance created. That is nothing but this one. So if you don't have any instance, we need to click on this create instance button. And we need to populate the name. It must be a unique. Then a description, notification, email. You can provide your own email address or you can use some support email address based on your requirement. You can select your home region. Also, this home region will be visible over here. Currently, my home region is US East Ashburn. You can change if you have any other. Then we need to click on test and then we need to click on the create button. It will take some time and then the instance will be created. So in our case, the instance is already available. So once instance has been created, you can click on this actions button over here and click on this access service instance. Upon clicking on this option, you will land into this page, that is the Oracle Visual Builder Studio or the Developer Cloud Service. Once we are done with creating the VBS instance, next our focus of interest is creating a project wherein we can start building our Visual Builder applications. In order to create a project to work on visual applications, there are two steps, that is create and set up a project for development, that is different identity domain, and another option is same identity domain. That is, if you want to develop a visual application using VB Studio instance that's in a different identity domain than your Visual Builder instance, then you need to follow this option. In my case, the Visual Builder instance and the Visual Builder Studio instances are both in the same identity domain. So I'm going for this option. In your case, if it is different, you can go for this option as well. Now, in order to create a project, what we have to do is on the organization page, we need to click on plus create. Here already I am in organizations. Under projects, we need to click on this create. On clicking on that, we need to populate few details on the project details page. That is the new project wizard. We need to enter unique name and the description for the project. I am entering test VBCS project underscore 01. So here we can select the security as private so that we can add the users to whomever we want to give the access to for this particular workspace or the project. Also, we can have a shared so that it makes the project code, all the documents of wiki, task, builds available to everyone inside your organization. As of now, I'm keeping this private, and the language you can select from here. A private project is accessible to invited users only. Users who aren't invited can't access it or make the changes to it. But you can anytime invite the users if you want them to collaborate in your project. A shared project is nothing but anyone in an organization can contribute to your project. So once the details are filled, click on next. Here we need to select the template. We can go with the empty template or the empty project. Then we need to create the build jobs, pipelines, everything from scratch if we are going for empty project. At the time of creating this project, we are clear that we are going to work on visual applications. So I am selecting this. In your case, if you are creating any extensions for Oracle SaaS, that is the Fusion Cloud applications, then you can go for application extension. So I am selecting this visual application and clicking on next. As it is mentioned on here on the template page, you need to select visual applications and then click on next. Here it will ask for the Git repository name. I'm keeping this as default. It will create a Git repository specific for this project so that you will get a workspace and the branch wherein you can work. So what is a workspace? Workspace contains all the artifacts that you need to develop your visual application, including a cloning of this project's Git repository and the branch which contains the source files. So we'll learn in detail what this workspace means and what is this branch means and how we can create a multiple local branches and how we can push this branch. In short, it is mentioned over here, a working branch is simply a copy of a master which will serve as your own private work area in your workspace. You can always switch branches later. You can have a multiple branches for your development purpose. So whatever branch you find is working fine, then that could be pushed to the master branch. I have missed to select the development VB instance. I am selecting this VB instance app. This is already configured for me. Upon filling all the details, click on finish. In the development VB instance, if there are multiple instances to select from, you can select one from the drop down list and you can create a project. So this project creation will take a couple of minutes. So I'm pausing this video for a couple of minutes and we'll resume once everything is done. So our project has been created successfully. Here upon finishing the project, so it will take you to project home page. In our case, it has taken us to our project home page. Next, when you create a project using visual application template, then following artifacts are created. One is a Git repository. Let's check. So in our case, a Git repo has been created. We can just copy this to clipboard and clone to our local machine and we can clone the repository. A development environment will be created. Let's now verify. Let's go to this environments and we can verify. In our case, development environment has been created. If you want to create any other environment like test and production, we can just click on this create environment and we can configure accordingly. Next thing, it will create a job, that is a packaging and deploy job. Also, it will create a pipelines. Let's verify. Let's go to build. As you can see, we have two jobs over here. One is a visual application deploy, another is a package. If you go to pipeline, it has created a pipeline that is to package and deploy. If you want to create a new pipeline, then you can create accordingly. If you want to create a job in order to deploy to any other environments other than development environment, we can create a separate job for that purpose. So one thing what we need to modify is we need to configure the deployment job. For that, we have to go to this build. Under jobs, we need to select the deployment job and configure our username and password. So we will do that. We need to go to this build section and we need to click on this configure action, which is available for visual application deploy. Click on this configure. Then as the documentation says, we need to go to steps and we need to change the username and password. Go to step, and here we have to change the username and password. I will update the username and password now. I have updated the username and password for this step, that is for Oracle deployment, and I'm clicking on this save button. We can now run the pipeline and we can verify if required. So we'll do that. In the navigation menu, click on the builds and click on the pipeline, and then we need to click on build. Go to build, go to pipelines, and we need to click on build. It has submitted a request. As you can see, our build job is waiting for an executor. So it will take some time in order to deploy. Now we can go to this workspace and we can click on this workspace so that it will open our application in Visual Builder instance. As you can see, our workspace has opened up in Visual Builder instance. So here if you see, we will get a Git repository name and the branch where we are working currently. If you want, we can switch the branches from here and we can rename the branch. We can commit and push to the master repository. So like this, we can create visual applications and we can collaborate with the team. We can build the web pages or applications collectively with the team effort. In this class, we are going to learn following topics. First, we are going to provision Oracle integration instance. Also, we are going to look at the documentation by Oracle on provisioning or creating Oracle integration instance. Now, let me switch over to this documentation page. So, I am here in the documentation page for provisioning and administering Oracle integration and Oracle integration for SAS Gen 2. On the left hand side, in the table of column, we have to select this creating an Oracle integration instance. Here, Oracle has documented the steps. We need to sign into our Oracle Cloud Infrastructure console. This we have already seen in our previous chapter. Then we have to go to navigations. Under developer services, we need to go for integrations. Then we need to select the appropriate compartment. Then we have to click on this create instance, and there is a tabular data provided over here. Based on the requirement, we need to select. Now let me switch over to OCI console. I'm here in the Oracle Cloud Infrastructure console. Now we need to click on this left hand corner button, it is the hamburger menu. From here we need to select developer services. Under developer services, we need to select this integration. We need to select the appropriate compartment from the list of compartments where we want to have this instance created. Now we need to click on this create button over here. First we need to provide the name. I'm giving learning 236. In the edition, we need to select standard or enterprise. Let me switch over to this documentation page. In the documentation, there is a row with name edition. We need to click on this Oracle integration editions. So it will open up this page. Here it will show you what and all features are available in standard and enterprise Oracle integration products. So in the standard, we will be having integration, visual builder, standard adapters. But in enterprise, we will be having enterprise adapters, process, B2B, insight, file server support is also provided in standard, and embedded recipes and accelerators. So only difference between standard and edition is we won't get enterprise adapters. We need to build our own custom solution. In that case, we won't have processes. We cannot build the workflows, B2B integration and integration with insights. So accordingly, we need to select, I'm selecting enterprise over here as we are having more features. So if you are coming from a Fusion middleware on-premise, then you can use your own license. That is nothing but bring your own license, or you can create a new license or subscribe to a new Oracle integration license by selecting this. So here we can select the number of message packs. We can increase or decrease from over here. Okay, each message pack will have 5k messages. For more details, you can come to this table and you can check the row message packs. Here you will get more insight into what is a message pack. I'm keeping this as 1 as of now. Now if you click on this show advanced options, here under custom endpoint, you can have your own custom endpoint, but you need to upload the certificate for this host that you can place under vault, and you can provide the secret from here. Also, you can associate this with the tags for budgeting or costing purpose. You can also restrict the network access. You can, with the help of the CIDR block IP addresses, you can block the access to this instance. Once fill all the details, you need to click on this create button. I'm clicking on this create. So our instance has been created, that is learning 236 over here. I'm clicking on this. On clicking on the instance name, it will open up the details page for you. Here, if your file server is not enabled, you will get an option to enable. You can click on that so that the OIC integration will have the dedicated file server or the FTP server created. If you have selected the enterprise edition for Oracle integration, you will have an option for Visual Builder enabling. So if it is not enabled at the time of creating, then you can click on the enable. It is enabled for me. So if it is not enabled for you, then you can click on the enable button. So in my case, this is publicly accessible. I'm not restricting the access. So if you come to the documentation page, here it is showing how to access Oracle integration instance. So there is the details provided over here, how to access the integration console. So if you don't know how to do, on this details page, there is an option for service console. You can click on this service console. And this will open up the integration console. In this class, we are going to learn how to create a Visual Builder application from scratch. I have logged into Visual Builder instance. As of now, I don't have any applications created in the instance. So I'm going to create this first application. In order to create the first application, click on this plus new application. So if you already have the applications created, then you will find an icon on the right top corner, that is to create a new application. So I'm clicking on this new application. I'm going to name this application as application learning. If you want, you can change this application ID over here. So that ID, what you define, it will be a context path which the browser will use. So in the template, I'm keeping the empty template, but if you want, you can change the template to dashboard or cookbook. I'm keeping this as empty and clicking on select and clicking on finish. Our application has been created and it will take me to this welcome screen, wherein I will have an option to directly create the service connection, that is to connect with REST endpoints. I can create mobile apps, that is the create PWA mobile applications. Business objects, also we can talk with business objects with the help of REST APIs. We can create web pages or the web apps over here. And there are few components, processes. If you want to interact with human workflow and all, we can do this with the help of processes. We'll learn in detail how we can do all those stuffs. As of now, I'm clicking this close button for the welcome page. Click on the web applications as we are going to build a web application. So as I don't have any web applications created, click on this plus web application. Here I will give the name as learning web app. You can select the style for this web application. I'm keeping as none, but if you want, you can have the bottom tabs navigation drawer so that it can create the necessary artifacts like the CSS, the theme and all other related stuffs automatically. I'm keeping this as none and clicking on create. So we shouldn't have the spaces and special characters in the application name. Okay, I will remove this and I will name this as learning web app. We'll follow camel casing in all our classes. Click on create. Our web app has been created, that is with the name learning web app. Let me expand this and let me expand this main. Click on the main start. our application has been created. So there is a boilerplate code over here which we can get rid of. Go to code and we can just select all and delete, as this is not required as of now. Click on design. Yeah, now we can see our web page. We don't have any boilerplate code over here. We can start learning VBCS over here by dropping the components in this section. In this class, we are going to create business objects in order to have the details for employee, department of employee, and the location of that particular department or the employee. We are going to consider the application which we have created in our previous class for creating business objects. So I will create the business object and import the data what I have in the file already. First of all, I will show you how the data looks before creating business object. So this is the employees business object data what I have in CSV file. Basically it will have ID, first name, last name, email, phone number, hire date, salary, department. Department is a foreign key kind of thing between departments, business object and employees. If you see here, there is a number. Now if I switch over to departments business object, so this ID will be associated with employees department ID over here. If we consider this employee whose department is 50, let's now check what is this 50. It is shipping. Now in shipping there is a location, it is having some number, so this is linked with the locations business object. Now 1500 is South San Francisco, US. So we are going to create business objects, import the data from here. Also we are going to create relationships between employees departments business object and departments to locations business object. Let's now switch over to Visual Builder application and begin with our business object creation. In order to create business objects in application, we need to select this business object option from the menu. Click on this. As I don't have any business objects created for this application, I don't see any business objects over here. In order to create the business object fresh, click on this plus business object. Here we have to give the name. As I'm going to create business object for employee, I'm naming this as employee. Click on create. Let me click on this and minimize this panel. By default, few of the fields will already be created, like the ID, creation date, created by, last updated date and last updated by. Now we will create first name first. Copy this from here. Go to business object, click on this plus icon over here on the right side. Click on field. Give the label as first underscore name what we copied from the CSV file. Select the type. I want this to be as string. Click on create field. If you want this to be required, we can make this as required from the options over here. If it is a unique, we can select this accordingly. And also we can have few restrictions like minimum length, maximum length and the pattern. We can put it over here. The next field is last name. I'm copying this from here. Click on the plus field again and create the last name field. It is a type of string. Click on create field. Next field we have to create for email. Copy this text from here. Click on plus, click on field. Put this as email. I will leave this as string only. If you want, you can have this email if required. Click on create field. And the next is phone number. Copy this from here. Switch over to business objects. Click on plus field. Provide the label and select this as phone. Click on create field. So we have created first name, last name, ID is there, email and phone number. Now I will create hire date. Copy this from here. Plus field. Paste it over here. It is of type date. We have to select the date over here. This is the date type. Click on create field. So the next field is salary. Salary is double. We will select over here. Click on plus field. There is no double type over here. Either we have to select number or string. I will select this as number over here and click on create field. As I don't have any decimal point numbers in the salary, accordingly you can select. The last thing is department. Select this from here, plus field, and this is of type number. Click on create field. We have created almost all the fields which are required to import that CSV file. Once you have created all the fields, we have to click on this data tab. Once you click on the data tab, it will represent the fields in the tabular column, tabular fashion. So as of now, we don't have any data for displaying purpose. So in order to import the data from CSV file, we need to click on this import from file. Click on this icon over here. We need to drag and drop the file over here, or we can select the file from our local computer by clicking on this drag and drop icon. Click on this drag and drop section over here. So this will open the file explorer pop-up window. I am selecting employee CSV file and clicking on open, and click on import. So as you can see, all the details got populated, like the department, email, first name, hire date, ID, last name, phone number, and the salary. Now we'll go back to business objects and click on plus button over here in order to create a business object for department. Click on this and select business object. Here we have to name this as department. Click on create. Go to the fields. Go to departments. Here we need the name and the location. Also in the file, I will rename these to small case, name and location. I'm copying the name from here and creating a field for name. So name is of type string. I'm selecting string and clicking on create field. Location is type number. We need to create a number field. Click on this plus field, location, number. Click on create field. Go to the data and we have to import our departments file over here. I'm selecting departments file. Click on import. Yeah, our details got populated successfully over here. Now click on this overview tab. What you see over here. Here there is a relationship section. As of now, there is no relationship, but in our case, there is a relationship between departments and employees, and it is between this employees department column and departments ID column. We'll create this relationship now. In order to create a relationship, we can either go from employee or department as well. Anything is fine. I'm going to create from departments. Click on this plus. So from here in the target, we have to select which business object we have to create relationship with department. I'm selecting employees. So here it is saying many to one, as many employees can be associated with a single department, and that will be one to many. From department, one department can be linked to many employees, or many employees can be linked to one department. So I'm changing the relationship over here, or you can click on this reverse relationship as well, like this. So once you create the relationship, so it will create a field under employees in order to access the department data. Now instead of this, I will name this as department relation, and the label will also be department relation. Now once done, click on this create relationship. So it will create a many to one relationship between employees and department. Now if we switch over to the employees business object, under overview, here also it will show the relationship. It will reflect everywhere wherever we have made association with the business objects. Like we created a relationship in departments, and it is visible in employees as well. So like this, we can create a business object, we can populate the data, we can create the fields. Also, we have seen how to import the data with the help of CSV file and create relationships between two business objects. In this class, we are going to learn business object diagrams, and also we'll create one business object from within the diagrams. In order to create a business object diagram, click on this diagrams, and here we need to click on plus business object diagram. I'm going to name this as employees diagram, or name it as employee business object diagram. Click on this create button. So from here we can select what and all business objects we want to display it over here. As soon as you select the business objects, if there is any relationship, it will reflect over here. Like in this case, employees is having many to one relationship with department. It is showing over here. Now if I want to create a new business object, just right click on this canvas and click on this new business object. So we need to create a locations business object which we didn't create in our previous class. That is to create the relationship between departments, that is location column, and the locations business object, which will be associated with the ID in locations business object. Let's create it now. I'm going to name this as location business object. Click on create. As soon as you create a business object and switch over to the tab in business object, it will display it over here. In order to add the fields, click on this plus field, and here you can provide the details. Now I'm going to create a field for city. Copying this over here. City will be of type string. Click on create, and the city is created. Now we need to create couple of more fields, that is ID and country ID. Since ID is already present, when we create any business object, ID created by created date, all those things will already be present. So I won't create this ID field again. I will create this field, that is country ID. Right click on this locations, employee business object, click on plus field, and populate the label name over here, country ID. So this is of type string. I will keep this as type string and click on create field. So we have created the location. Now we will create a relationship between departments and location. So in order to create the relationship between location and department, that is department will be linked to or related to locations with the help of this locations column in departments and ID column in locations. Now we'll create that relationship. Right click on the location, click on this plus relationship. So you will get something dotted line. So we need to go over here and select this department. So it will open the pop-up which we had seen in our previous class. So here the relationship between department and location will be many departments could be located in a particular location. So for this it will be many departments to one location. So I'm going to reverse the relationship. So instead of location to, I will rename this to location relation. This also I will rename to location relation, and click on create relationship. We have created the location business object and created a relationship between departments and location business object right from business diagram. Now we need to populate the data into this location business object. In order to add the data, we need to go back to objects, click on this location, go to data like what we did in our previous classes. Same thing we need to follow here. Click on this import from file, select this, drag and drop, and select the file where we have the locations data. Click on this and click on open and click on import. We have imported location data into this locations business objects. So we have created a departments, employee, and location business object. In this class, we are going to create collapsible component over here. Let me minimize this layout. From the components, we have to select collapsible, drag this and drop it over here. I could see this collapsible icon. Now if I switch over to the live mode, you will have an option to expand this. Switch over to design, switch over to code, and let's check how it has created this Now under collapsible, I will create a form layout as I want to get the search criteria from the user. So for that, I am selecting this form layout and dropping it over here. Go back to design. So this collapsible layout is having this expanded to off. We can turn it to true so that it will always be expanded and we can see the form layout. So if you make this as off, this will always be off unless the user prompts it to expand the collapsible. I will add few fields over here in order to get the data from the user. So before that, let me style this collapsible. Switch over to the code. Select this div section and go over to all. Here, if you expand the general attributes, you will find the style. You can directly write here in the code or else you can make use of this style. Now I will add the background color to white. Background color has been added. Switch over to design. As you can see, we are seeing this background color getting highlighted to white. Now I will try to add the margin at the top. Select this, or else we can write it over here directly. Margin top is 10 px. Now switch over to design. As you can see, there is a margin added at the top, that is 10 px. This you can change anytime. This got turned to off. Let me turn it back to true. Yeah, expandable is turned to true. Now switch over to code and check the details. Yeah, this looks fine. Now before the form layout, I will try to add the heading. So I will search for heading over here and drag and drop it over here next to collapsible. I mean within the collapsible, but before form layout. And I will bind this form layout within the flex field. I will search for flex over here, flex container, and drop it next to headings. And I will remove this form layout from here and add it within div. Let me format this document. In order to format, right click and click on this format document. This will format the document if it is not formatted. Now we have to select this heading. I will change the level to H6 over here. Now instead of heading, I will rename this to search criteria. Now let me go back to design. The web page looks something like this. Now let us preview how the web page looks in the bigger screen. So this has opened our web page. Let me expand the collapsible. So let's now check. We had enabled this collapsible to true. It's not reflecting. So we need to select this check mark over here. Then it will add it into the HTML code. As you can see, our expanded is set to true now. Now let me refresh and check whether collapsible is always expanded or not. Yeah, now when the page refreshes, the collapsible is always expanded. Now before closing this class, let me select this heading and select the slot type to header. Now it will rearrange accordingly. If we select to default, as you can see, it was coming over here. As soon as we select header, it will rearrange accordingly. So in our next class, we will populate this form layout to accept the criteria from the user, like the employee ID, and we will add one more criteria, that is to search based on salary. In this class, we are going to add couple of search parameters over here, wherein the user can input his employee ID and click on search and get the details for that particular employee. Also, we will add the criteria to search employees based on salary. So for this purpose, I will switch over to code. We can make use of design layout as well. We can select the component, drag and drop it over here, but I prefer working in code. Click over to code Now I will first of all add the label over here. So select this label value, drag and drop it after this starting OJ form layout tag. Now within the label, I will add the label field as well. Now we have added the label. Now let me rename this to employee ID. Done. Now I will add one input text area so that the user can enter the input. So it's over here, input text. Select this and drop it after the label. So we have added the text. In the label hint, I will add enter employee ID. Done. Go over to design and check how it looks. Now it's not visible over here completely. Now let us style this form layout. Now go back to code view. Select the form and we will move this first of all initial to oj-flex and we'll add those for small and medium devices classes. So I want this to be stretched across 11 frames only in medium device. I am using a medium device, that is a laptop of 14-bit screen. Click on this label. On the right side, you will get the lot of details. From here, we have to select the slot name as label. And from the input text, we have to select, for input text, we have to select this as slot name as value. We are done. Also, apart from this, I will add the ID tag to this. ID is equal to, we will name everything in camel casing over here in this application development. I'm going to name this as ID followed by search employee ID. Now select the label over here. On the right side, it will show the label properties. Now here it will ask, we are creating this for which element. So we have to select our ID which we created, which will accept the input. Select this. So it will display over here. So this label is for this particular search employee ID. Now let me go back to design view and check how it looks. Our details are visible over here, the employee ID and the text area. Now we will make it little more styling with the help of CSS classes. Now select the form layout. Now in the properties, we will make maximum 2 columns. Label will start from start and columns we will make as 2. We need 2 columns and the direction will make as row wise. Now switch over to design and check how it looks. Yeah, it looks good now. Also, we'll add some margin for this form layout and the search so that it will look little cleaner. Go to code view. Where it is over here. So here I'm going to add the style. Also, if you are not comfortable working in code, you can select this flex field. You can go over to all. So under all, if you expand this general attributes, you will find on option to add the styling. So here also you can add like margin hyphen top colon 25px, just about, it will reflect over here. Even we can code. Now go back to design. So we have added successfully a search field for employee. Next we will add a radio button, something like over here, to query based on the salary. In order to do that, switch over to code view. Close this search criteria and search for label again. So I'm selecting this label value and dropping after the first label. I'm selecting this label component from here and dropping it over here. Now this I will make a salary field. Okay, we are done. Next thing is we need a radio, something over here. So I will add the radio button. I'm searching for radio, so it's a radio set over here. Select this and drop it over here. So value, I will make this as yes or no over here. yes, and second option I will put it as no. So on UI, we will display it as Y or N. Based on that, user can select the option appropriately. Now for this radio set, I will add the ID. ID is equal to ID search based on salary. Now select this label as we did for the previous search criteria. We are making this label as slot is equal to label. So it will display slot is equal to label. And this radio set, we are making this as a value slot. You can refer to what is slot in HTML in details. We are done. And one more thing, we have to associate this label to radio set. Previously, we had selected this for, it's over here, for is equal to this for this particular field, that is input search employee ID. Same way, we are going to associate this label with this ID search salary field. In order to do that, we have to select for the for, that is this one, ID search salary. Yeah, we have done that. Go to design and see how it looks. As you can see, it looks something like this. Let us make this as mandatory. Without this, we won't proceed to search with the employees in our database. Now select this and make this as mandatory. Select this radio set. Scroll up. Here there is an option to make this as mandatory. Make this as required. Also, we'll make this as a row wise. So let us check how can we do that. OJ radio. Let us see if there is any option. Not there. Let us check the choice. OJ choice direction row. Yeah. Now it will display in a row wise. Now when user selects Y, we will provide an option to provide the salary value over here. In order to do that, let me switch back to code view. Now after option, first option, I will add the if condition. If drag and drop it after this first radio set option. We have added the if. Now we need the input text over here. Input text. Drag this and drop it within this bind if. Let me put the ID for this again. So for this we are putting ID as ID search salary value. So this will make as radio set. Radio set. Once if you modify, we have to copy and paste it in all the places wherever it is referred. So we'll change this over here as well. Okay, looks good. Now let's go back to design. Now as you can see, this if condition we are not using as of now. We'll add that condition and proceed. So before that, let me switch over to live mode and we'll check. This is providing an option to enter the value. Yeah, and radio set is providing an option to select yes or no. Once you click yes or no, the required mark will go off. Now go over to the code view. Let's put some validations for this value field, that is input text, what the user is going to enter. So first of all, we are making this as virtual keyboard as number, that is used for entering the numbers. Next thing what we can do is we can add the few classes. OJ form control max width SM, and I will add one more form control width for small devices. Yeah, we are done adding these two classes. So we'll change the label hint over here to enter salary, and also we'll add the minimum and maximum criteria over here. Minimum salary should be 1, maximum it could be $99999. Let's scroll towards right. Okay, now let's switch over to design and check how it looks. It looks something like this. So on the larger screen, it will look proper. Let me preview this application. So on a larger device, it looks something like this, wherein a user can select the salary like this. Now we will create a variable in order to hold the values entered by the user in these fields. For that, we are going to go to variables, click on plus. Here I am going to name as variable. This is created at page level. This is to store the search criteria. This I will make this as of type object. Click on create. Click on add field and add few fields. So the first field will be employee ID. This will be of type string. Click on create. Next field we are going to add for the salary. Enter salary and the type is of number. Click on create. We need to add one more field over here in order to fetch the value of radio set button. So click on this and here we put radio salary radio value. Radio set value will put. So it's of type string. Click on create. Now go back to page designer. Now we are going to assign the values whatever user enters in these fields to the variable. So in order to do that, select this input text, go to data and associate the variable to this. So I am selecting the value entered by the user in this employee ID field. Click on save. Next is the radio set. We need to assign the value selected by the user when the user clicks on appropriate radio button to the value. So in order to do that, click on this expression under data and associate that to radio set value. Click on save. And whatever user enters in this field, that is input salary area, it should be saved in a particular variable that we are going to assign now. Under data, first we have to select that area, then go to data, then go to fx, expand this variable and drag the salary and drop it over here. Click on save. Now switch over to the code view. Now there is a if condition over here which we don't see in the design view. Select this. Now this should be displayed only when the user selects this as y. For n, it shouldn't display. So in order to do that, click on this expression, expand this. So instead of true, we'll drag this radio set value. We'll check whether if it is S. Click on save. So whenever the radio set value is pressed by the user to Y, the value will change to S. If it is S, then this input area will be visible. Click on design view. Now if you see that input field area is not available, now if you switch back to live mode and click on this Y, your area will come out wherein a user can enter the input text. He click on N, then that area will go off. Now we need the search button over here. Whenever the user is done with filling all the details, he or she should be able to click on search and get the details. In order to do that, again I'm going to code view. So after the form layout, I'm adding a button. So button is over here. Just drag it and drop it over here. So button will be displayed. Instead of button, I'm going to name this as search. Let me go back to design and see how it looks. It's coming on the right side, so it looks little shabby. Go back to code view. Let's rearrange it. Let me add few classes over here. First of all, I want this class to be spread across all the 12 frames in the medium device. I'm using the medium device. So if you see in the design view, now it is displayed over here on the left side. Go back to code. we'll increase the width of this search button. Scroll to classes. Here we have to search for OJ button. Full width we'll make. Also we'll add one more property for the class, SJ button, for small devices. Done. We'll also add few styling over here. We'll add the left margin at 40%, margin left colon 40%. Then we'll add the margin top to 25px, and width of this button will spread across 200px. Done. Now go back to design and see how it looks. Yeah, something it looks like this. The search is in middle. Search criteria are above this search button. Now we'll add the divider, and after that we'll add the tables. So we'll end this class by adding the divider after this collapsible layout. So here I am searching for horizontal rule. Okay. Go back to code. Drag this horizontal rule and drop it after this collapsible layout. I will add the flex container over here now, so that we can stylize in future. Drag this and drop it over here. I will remove this from here and move this within this form layout or the container. Now switch back to design and see how it looks. It doesn't look good. Let me go back to code. Now scroll down. Now if you see over here, I will remove this direction of column, and also OJ flex. I will make this to stretch across all 12 frames. In fact, I will remove this from here and put it in the parent div class, and also I will remove this as flex. Oh, our horizontal rule has gone off. Let me put back that. Select this horizontal rule and drop it over here. Copy this from here and paste it in the horizontal rule. Now go back to design and see how it looks. Now this small horizontal rule appears over here, which is stretched across 12 frames of this medium device. Now if you preview in the browser, it looks the same. There is a horizontal rule between this collapsible and the next component what we are going to add. In this class, we are going to mark this salary as a required with the asterisk symbol over here. In order to do that, switch over to the code view. Check where is this salary field. So it's over here. So before salary, I'm going to drop a span element of HTML. Drag this and drop it over here. So it got dropped after salary. Let me cut this from here and drop it before salary. Now the value of span will be star or the asterisk symbol. Let me switch over to design and see how it looks. It looks something like this. Also, I will mark this with blue color. So go to style, and here we have to select the color as blue. Right color colon blue. Done. Just tab out. As you can see, our blue asterisk symbol is visible over here before salary. We have already seen how we can get the search criteria from the user, but we are not displaying any result once we get the search criteria. So in order to fix it, I will drop a table component wherein we will display the details of employee. Scroll towards the end, we will drop the table after this horizontal ruler. Search for the table component. So it's over here. Select this and drop after the div. So the option call policy is load more on scroll. That is fine. Selection mode, I am selecting this as single and it is stretched across oj-SM12, oj-SM12. Now switch over to the design view and see how it looks. So our table is over here. Select this. Now we'll populate the data. So we'll make use of this quick starter in order to populate the data over here. Click on add. We need to select employee from the business objects. Click on next. From here I am selecting ID. We need ID. We need first name. We need last name. We need email. We need department, and that's all we need to display in the table. If you want any additional details to be present, that you can add it over here. So I will put this salary detail, phone number, and last updated date and last updated by fields in the row. Click on next and finish. As you can see, our table is populated with this detail. Let me preview this and see how it looks. So whenever the page loads, we get the details for all the employees. Now the search criteria what we enter over here, we are not mapped to this table. We will see how we can map that. For the quick resolution, I will go to this types. So as you can see, when we added the details from the employee and populate the table, it has created for us a type and also a variable. That is the employee list SDP. If we select this and go to this filter criteria, we can quickly add one condition over here. Click add and we can search whenever this ID contains the value. I am going to map what we have in that variable, the criteria, and this employee ID. Click on save. Now let me preview this in a browser. I am refreshing the page. Once the page is refreshed, you can search here with the details. Like I will enter 100 and just tab out. So it's not displaying anything. Let's go back to our condition and check whether we have mapped properly. So here I have selected the department relation object. I have to select the employee ID over here. I will remove this from here. Now I will search for employee ID. It's over here. I'm selecting this and click on save. Now let me refresh this browser. Right click and refresh. Now I will provide the search criteria. I will give 10 and just tab out. As you can see, 10 is part of 100 and 101. So I'm getting both the details. I will give 100. So I'm getting 100. So now this is not the right way to filter. Just for demonstration purpose, I have shown you. In our next class, we will see how we can get those. You make use of those values and click of the button. It will filter the data from this table accordingly. In this class, we are going to look at how we can make use of the values available in the search criteria, and on click of the button, it will filter this table. So before that, let me remove this filter criteria which we had added. Go to here and just select this and click on this delete. Click on save. As you can see, filter criteria is showing as not mapped. Go back to page designer. Now click on this button over here, what you see, and go to events. So if you scroll down, there is an option to create new event. Click on this new event and select on action. Now it has created for us an event and the action chain. Now let me rename this to button action chain search employee. Looks fine. Now the first action what we have to do is we have to assign the variable. Drop this assign variable over here. Now select this assign variable and click on this assign under variables. So it will open up the mapping pop-up page. So here we have to expand the SDP like what we had seen in our previous case. Similar thing we have to do it over here. But this time we will make use of URI parameters to achieve the same use case. So here there is a query parameter wherein I will be passing this criteria of employee ID. Now let me map this employee ID to Q. So here we need to append this in order to create a string where ID like within the quotes. So this will be something like SQL query what we write within the percentage symbol we write within where ID like and the value. Similar thing we have to create SQL query kind of where clause over here in the query. Now first we will check for the employee ID, then we will check for salary as well. Now click on save. Yeah, done. If you want we can fire the data, it's not required, but if you need we can do that as well. We can refresh the SDP after this. So under event I'll search for SDP. It's over here employee SDP, click on save. Now let me refresh this page and test. As soon as you edify the application in a VBCS designer page, our application will be updated and in the preview it will be reflected. Now here I will give as 100 and click on search. It's not coming. If I give 101, let me check whether it's coming or not. Let me just debug in order to know the root cause. In order to debug, just right click on inspect. Go over to console, just scroll down. Here if you see it's showing as bad request. Now let me see what was the request made. So there is a get request made. Let me scroll down and check the URL what it has used. So it's under here. Just copy this and paste it over here and see what is the URL it has formed. So there is some issue with this query parameter. It's not reflecting the value what we entered. Now let's go back and check this app. Now let me go back to this assignment and check whether we have mapped properly. Click on this mapped. Check this criteria. Here it's showing something different and we had mapped it otherwise. Click on this expression. So we have to copy this from here. Just make sure when you write this expression, it's selected as expression instead of static value. Now let me correct this. So it will be like ID like percentage and end with percentage and the quote. Click on save. Now let me refresh this page. Once the page loads, I will provide the employee ID over here and click on search. As you can see, my employee get filtered. I will add one more thing over here, 101. Now it is reflecting the employee details from that particular employee. Now we have not made use of this salary. We will make use of that now. So in order to make use of that, we have to go to this mapper again, expand this SDP. We have to go back to our query queue parameter. Here apart from this, we will add and condition and we will check this salary. After this, write salary is less than. So we will try to filter all the employees whose salary is less than particular salary. That is what we get in the request. So that we will get over here in the filter criteria under salary. Drag this and drop it over here. So if it doesn't drop, just remove this and map it to queue parameter and then you paste it like this. So we have formed the SQL query kind of where clause that our ID is like this employee ID and salary is less than this salary. Click on save. Now we'll refresh the web page and we'll verify. Also I'm clearing the browser console. Once the web page opens up, here we can provide the employee ID and the salary. Salary I will tell like whatever is less than 24,000 we have to fetch. We don't have any data. Let's now check whether it is working fine from the console. Let me expand this and check. So let me copy the URL what it has generated for us. Paste it over here. So it has created where ID like 100 and salary less than 22000. Okay. Now let me check whether there is any employee with that particular criteria. Go back to page designer. Go back to business objects under employee, data. So we'll search for employee ID 100 and whose salary is less than 24001. Go back to our app 24001. Click on search. We have one employee. Let me search for some other employee as well. We'll search for employee ID 200 whose salary is less than 5,000. 200 whose salary is less than 5,000. Click on search. Here we are retrieving the details for Jennifer. Let me make this as 1000. Let us check. Now this will work only when we know both the condition. What if we don't know one of the condition? We'll leave this as blank and click on search. In this case, it is not working. So let us check whether it is breaking over here in the web call. Let me expand this response. Let me copy from here and paste it over here. Now if you see like anything and salary is 1000. So it didn't retrieve anything. So we are not retrieving any details over here. Now if we give this as salary as 10,000, it is working. Now if we make this as 5,000, let's see if there is any employee whose salary is less than 5,000. So there are few employees over here whose salaries are less than 5,000. Now suppose I am making this as n and here I am writing as 100. Click on search. Here I am not getting any details. Now let's go back to this and see how it is generating the URL. So as you can see, even though we have made this as 500, we have made this salary of search criteria as n, even though it is adding this 5,000. Now how we can resolve this issue? We have to check, and also we'll see how we can remove this AND clause at runtime. Suppose if I don't want the salary criteria to be used in order to fetch the details, then it doesn't make sense to send this AND clause with salary. So in order to resolve this issue, we are going to look at how we can build a JavaScript function, and we are going to create this string, that is the query string, with the help of JavaScript at runtime. In this class, we are going to build a JavaScript function which will accept the search criteria entered by user like employee ID and the salary, and it will return the query string which we can pass directly to SDP query parameter. Now in order to do that, first we have to go to JavaScript over here. First I will remove this class from here. I will create a variable var page module is equal to, this is a function, page module of, okay. I will end this over here. Next I will create page module dot prototype dot get search query string, or we can write get search query parameter. Over here I am creating this as a function of, so here we will accept two parameters. One will be employee search field, employee search ID or employee ID search. Next will be our salary search criteria. Employee ID search, we'll make this as criteria. Done. Next is, let me create one parameter, that is query param. Let me assign this to null as of now. Now I will write the condition if, what I am going to check is if my employee ID search criteria is not equal to undefined and employee ID is not equal to null and employee ID is not equal to empty. In that case, I will query parameter plus is equal to, I will create the string over here, that is ID like percentage. Next I will concatenate this with employee search criteria plus I will append this to percentage. Done. Let me end this over here. Next I am going to check if my salary search criteria, whether this is there or not, is not equal to undefined and this is not equal to null and, let me put the space over here. It's always a good practice to leave one space around the operators, and this must be greater than 0. Done. In that case, I am again going to check if my query parameter is empty. If this is empty, then my query param plus is equal to salary less than the salary search criteria, that is over here, salary search criteria. Else, if my query parameter is not empty, in that case I'm going to append this with and salary is less than salary search criteria. Now here I am going to return the query parameter from this function. So return query param. Yeah, we are done with this creating JavaScript function. Now let me go back to action. Here, instead of assigning this over here, what we need to do is we need to call our JavaScript function. Let me drag this and drop it over here, that is before assign. So in the function, we need to select which function we want to call. As we have only one function created, I am selecting this. Here it's asking to map the values. Click on assign. Expand this search criteria. Employee ID we need to pass it over here and salary we need to pass it over here. Click on save and the response we will get the query string that we need to pass it over here. Now select this assign variable, open this mapping. Here previously we had mapped the query parameter for this Q parameter. Expand this, Q is over here. Select all, remove, paste the response, or else we can map it over here to Q. Yeah, like this. Click on save. Now we'll verify whether it is working or not. I will refresh this page now. On page load, we are getting the details for all the employees. Now I will search for employee whose employee ID is 100. I am getting employee ID employee whose employee ID is 100. Now let me search for 1001. I am getting the employee details for 101 employee. I am selecting this as Y. I am removing the employee ID and searching whose salary is less than 5,000. Click on search. Now we will get all the employees whose employee ID is 5,000. Now I will change this. Now before this, we'll just check the query, how it is forming. Over here, click on the response, copy this. Now if you paste this and check, when we provide only the salary criteria to search instead of employee ID, we are not seeing that query parameter for employee ID. Only we have this salary over here. So like this, with the help of JavaScript function, we can build the query and return and make use in order to query the SDP. When the user provides the search criteria for employee ID like 100 and click on search button, they will get the details for that particular employee. Suppose if there is a salary criteria, I will give here like 30,000 and click on search. We are getting the details for that particular employee and the salary if he is qualified for that. Suppose if we provide the salary less than $300, then click on search. We are not getting the details for the employee. Now suppose I will select this as N and employee ID also I will remove and click on search. In this case, the search must fetch all the details of the employee and it has to display it over here. Now let us check why it is not displaying. Let me open the browser. Now let me expand this response over here. Copy this and paste to notepad. Here if you closely observe, in the query we are having a salary criteria 300 still. So it is not reset. So we need to reset this post we fire the SDP. Now we'll look at how we can do that. So for that we have to go to action over here. Now we need to make use of this reset variables. Take this and drop it over here. So under variables to reset, we have to select that search criteria. So let me search where it is. So instead we can search like this as well. We can give and we can select this we search criteria. So at the end of the action chain, this will reset the variable, that is search criteria variable, which is created at page level. Apart from this, we need to modify our JavaScript function as well. Suppose our employee ID search criteria and salary both are null. Suppose the user doesn't enter anything. In that case, we have to pass the generic query. So that will check if query param is equal to empty. In that case, we have to return ID like within the single quotes %%. Now once done, we can refresh our browser page and validate. I am refreshing this page. Suppose I enter the employee ID 100 and click on search. I'm getting the employee ID, employee details for that particular employee. Suppose I'm giving the salary something like 50,000 and clicking on search, I'm getting the result. Suppose I'm giving as N and employee ID as empty and click on search. Now if you see, I'm getting the details for all the employees. Like this, we can get the details for all the employees when the user removes the search criteria. When the user provides the search criteria like 100 and the salary, suppose I'm giving 3,500 and clicking on search. So until the application searches for that particular employee data, we are not sure like what has gone wrong. So in this case, what we'll do is until the search completes, we will get a progress bar. So which will load, and once the employee details are loaded completely, then our progress bar will go off from the screen. Something like loading screen. Now we'll look at how we can do that. Switch over to our application. So for this, we have to go to code view. We can make use of designer as well, as I told earlier. So it's your personal choice what you have to prefer. Now we have to search for dialog over here. Select this and drop it over here at the end of the screen. Now I will name this as dialog, I will rename this to searching progress. So I have renamed this to searching progress. And also we can style this dialog. So instead of dialog, I am making this title as searching employee. Instead of employee, let me name this as only searching. That looks good. So here in the style, I will add the width and the height as well. Width I will add 500 px. Height I will add to 200 px, and font size I will make to 0.8 rem. Looks good. Switch over to the design view. On design view, we may not be able to get the dialog. Even if we go to live mode also, we won't see the difference. In order to work on the dialog, we need to go to actions. That is, on click of the search button, it has to open the dialog or the pop-up. In order to open the pop-up, we have to make use of this call component, drag this and drop it over here. So from the components list, we have to select our dialog, that is OJ dialog searching progress. Next, we have to select the method, what it has to do. We have to select open. Now let me go back to the page designer. Switch over to the live mode. Now click on this search button. Now as you can see, we are getting a pop-up along with dialog name and the few other details. Now I don't want the switch button over here. I am deleting this. Instead of the button to close, what I will do is I will make use of this cancel behavior and select icon, so that the icon will be visible on the right top corner. Now I will go to live mode again. As you can see, we got the close button. Clicking on this, it will close the pop-up. Now I will add the progress bar over here. Select this and drop it over here. I will drop the progress bar over here. Let me go to the code view. Scroll down. So the progress bar looks fine. Now let me increase little bit over here to 6. Select this progress bar and the ID, make it as -1, so that it will load on its own and complete when fully the employee details are loaded. Else we can give the numbers over here 1 to 100. Accordingly it will progress. Let me go to the live mode and click on this search. Go to design. Now let me rearrange this to here in the middle. Also we'll increase the size of this for medium devices. Instead of MD4, I will write oj-MD6. Let me refresh this browser page. Now I will give the filter criteria like 100 and salary I don't want. Click on search. So as you can see, we are getting the progress, but it is not closing as soon as the details are fetched. Even though there is a close button over here. Let me close this. Go back to actions. Here at the end again we need to call the component. We'll make use of call component. Select the component, that is OJ dialog searching progress, and the method we have to select is close. Done. Go back to page designer. So the ID what we give, this we have to give in the data. Cut this from here and go to data and paste it over here in the value. So as soon as you modify this value, we can write a JavaScript function wherein we can increment the value from 1 to 100. Accordingly, the progress bar will load. Now we'll go to the browser and refresh the page. Now I will provide the search criteria over here, 100 and salary I don't want. Click on search. As you can see, we are getting the pop-up with the loading progress bar, and it will close once the data is loaded. Now I will give some other condition to fetch all the employees whose salary is less than 24k. So like this, we can add the loading screen to a web page. Now suppose if a user wants to get the more details for a particular employee, when a user queries for a particular salaried employee and wants to know what is the location or the department where the employee works. Now if we click on each and every row over here, it does nothing. So we'll customize this and we'll create a hyperlink on the ID so that it will open a pop-up and provide all the details available for that particular employee. Also, if you see, there is an option to sort this. I want to disable the sorting option for those. That also we'll see how we can do that. So in order to do those things, we have to switch over to our application, go over to code view. Now we have to go for that table. It's over here, the table. First of all, I will disable the sorting feature for other fields other than ID. Now for that, we have to provide sortable is disabled. Now I will copy this from here. Copy and add it in all the fields other than ID. First name, last name is done. Next is the email. Here also I will add. And the last one is the department. Here also I will add. Now sorting I have disabled. Let me check whether that icon is gone, which allows the user to sort the data in the table. As you can see, we are having this sorted data, sortable icon only for ID column. Apart from this, we won't see anything. Oh, there is the icon for department as well. Let's now check whether it has updated or not properly. Let me scroll towards the right. Oh, it has not updated. Let me add it over here. Done. Let me go back to design and check. As you can see, now this sortable feature is there only for ID column, not for department or any other columns. Now we have to select the selection mode for row as single. For column, we can ignore. Let me check whether it has updated for column as well. Go to code. So we have selected the selection mode for row, and column is also there. For column, it's not required, so I will remove as of now. Okay. Now for ID, I will add the hyperlink. In order to modify anything for a particular table, we need to create templates. Now let me create the parameter for this object with template. So I have to name this template as ID hyperlink more detail template. So the template name is little big over here. Now before the table object ends over here, that is before end tag of XML object or the HTML field, that is /oj table, we need to create the template. Open the angle bracket, write template, you will get an option. So here we have to give the ID is equal to within the colon, and we'll end this template. Okay. Yeah, in the ID we have to provide this ID hyperlink more detailed template. Like this we can create a template. Now we'll modify this template. Let me click this template. So ID instead of ID, sorry, I have to give this under slot. Cut this from here and paste this over here in the slot. Okay. As you can see, our template is identified by this slot and which is linked to this one. Now within this, I will add a hyperlink. I will search for hyperlink over here. Hyperlink, copy this and drag and drop it over here. So we will get a hyperlink for this current data, that is nothing but ID data. Also, I will add an image next to that hyperlink. So for that, I will add the span field over here, span. Search for span, select this, drag and drop it after hyperlink. So let me switch over to the design view and check how it looks. As you can see, we are getting a hyperlink. For span also we have mapped to current data. We'll modify this. Switch over to code. I don't want that span to display the value. Instead, I want this to display icon. For that, I will go to Oracle images. It's over here. I will search for appropriate image like a badge. So I will add this one, oj-collapsible badge. So again, you can query here. And there are a lot of images available in the Oracle images. You can make use of this class and you can add it so that it will reflect in your web page. I will add it over here. Go back to design. Now as you can see, we are having an icon next to this. So instead of hyperlink, we can have the functionality created over here. On click of this icon, we can create an event or a pop-up and display the details. In our previous class, we had created a hyperlink for this ID column so that on click of the hyperlink, it will open a dialog box and it will give the details for a particular employee in detail. Now if you click, nothing happens, and also we had added this sortable feature for this ID column so that the user can sort it ascending or descending order as well. Now we look at how we can add the pop-up and provide the details for the particular employee. Switch over to application, go to code. Now at the end, we will add one more dialog. Drag this and drop it over here. So first I will change the name of this dialog to something different. Since we are having to display the details for the employee, I'm going to name this as employee more details. Now I don't want the footer area to be present in this dialog. I'm removing this, and also I want to have the cancel button available in the dialog. Select this dialog. For that, scroll down. So here there is a cancel behavior. We have to select on icon. Also, I'm going to modify the style of this dialog. I'm going to add the width to 500 px, height to, I will make the height as 500 px and width to 800 px, and font size to 0.8 rem. Done. Now within this flex, I'm going to drop the form layout. Select this and drop it after this div open tag. Now in this form layout, we will have maximum 2 columns and columns will be 2. And the label H will start from the start. I'm selecting this to start. Now I want the direction for this to be set as row. I want this div to be spread across 12 frames in the medium size screen. Let me copy this from here, and I will add as of now to the form layout as well, the same classes. Scroll down and add it over here. MD12, enter. And also I will wrap this with OJ flex item class. I have done this. Now I will add few labels over here along with the parameter. So like how we have done in the search criteria, similar thing we have to do it over here as well. Now in the layout, I will add the label. Drag this label value and drop it within the form layout. Now within the label, we have to drag the label and drop it here after label. Now after the label, we want to display the text. So for that, I will add the input text over here. Drag this and drop it over here. I'll remove the extra spacing between the lines. Now for this input ID, I'm going to name this as ID dialog employee ID, or instead I will give as dialog more detail employee ID. Now since we have given the ID, we'll make this slot as value, as this is a value field, value. And the label field, I'm going to name this as label. Scroll down, go to slot, select this label. I'm going to make this as ID. As of now, I'm not populating the data in this input text. The data I will leave as empty because this has to be populated from our variable. So I have to create the variable. Next, I will copy this same thing from here and paste it over here. Now let's check what and all details we want to display. Go to business object for employee. We'll display the phone number. Let's go back to main page. Let me rename this to phone number this time. Phone number. And the ID will change to dialog more detail phone number. Other details will look fine. Now for this first label, we have to select for which it is getting wrapped to. So under for, we have to select this dialog more detail employee. For that, I have to select, scroll down. So it is this one, we have to select this. And for the second one, we have to select it for this one, dialog more detail phone number, so that this label will be wrapped around that field. I'm selecting dialog more detail phone number. Okay, done. Now I'm going to create a variable in order to hold the details of the employee. So before creating that, let me create a type. Click on plus type. I'm going to select from the endpoint. Expand employee, get employee, click on next. Here let me rename this to get all employee response object type. So I'll uncheck this, expand items. So here I will select what and all details I want. I want email, first name, hire date, ID, last name, last updated date, last updated by phone number, and the salary. Click on finish. As you can see, it has created an object for us, that is get all employee response object type. Go to variables, click on plus variable. Here I am going to create a variable at page level, vpage employee detail. So from the type, we have to select our object type. Click on create. Okay, we have completed creating the variable. Let me go back to the page designer. Now scroll up. We have to find the table. Where is our table? We have to just scroll up or else you can go to design and select one of the hyperlinks from the first column. Now go to events. On click of this hyperlink, it must raise an event. So we have to create an action. On click action chain. Click on this hyperlink action chain. So it will take you to the action. So let me rename this hyperlink click action, that is more detail employee. Now the first thing what it has to do is it has to assign the variables available for that current row to the newly created variable. I'm dropping the assign variable over here. Now select this assign variable. Click on this assign. Here we need to do the mapping. Now here is the variable which we had created just now, and we need to map this to our current variable, that is current row. So this will carry the details of all the records available for that particular employee. Click on save. Now let's verify whether it is working or not. Now after assignment, we have to open the dialog. For that we will use this call component. And open our employee more details dialog. Click on this component and select OJ dialog employee more details. So method we have not selected. So we will select the method as well for this component. The method will be open. Selecting open. Then now we'll test this. Let me preview. Now I will click on this first employee. Click on this. As of now, it is not updating anything. The purpose of testing this is I wanted to check what details that current row value holds. Click on this inspect. Go to console. Scroll towards the end. Now here we can just search for row. So if you expand this row, it carries department 50, LVASH, all those things for which we had clicked. Now let's check whether it has assigned the details to vPage employee detail. Let me expand this. As you can see, it has assigned the details. Now our job is to map this to the pop-up. Now let me go back to this application. Go back to the page designer. Click on the code. Scroll down. Now click on this first input text, which it has supposed to update the employee ID. Now here we go to data. Click on the function. From here we need to expand and paste the ID. Click on save. And the second slot is for phone number. Click on this. Go to data. Click on this expressions. We have to expand this detail. From here we have to select the phone number and drop it over here. Click on save. Now here comes the dialog title. If you see over here, it is showing as dialog. Instead of this, I will write employee's full name and the last name, first name and the last name. Just scroll this towards right. Yeah. Select this. And in the dialog, I will make use of this function. I will remove this dialog from here. Expand this detail. First name plus, I will add the plus, that is the concatenation in JavaScript, plus and the last name. I will add it over here. Click on save. Now we will refresh this page and check whether the details are reflecting. Our page has been loaded. Now I will click this Donald Connell. 198 employee. Click on this. So it has opened the pop-up page and now it is allowing us to modify over here. Now this shouldn't be the case, but it is displaying the details like the employee name and the ID phone number. Now I'm going to close this and disabling this edit option. Go over to the code, scroll down, it's over here, input text, select this. Even if you click this, that is fine. If you scroll down, there will be a check mark that is disabled and read only. We can do that. Again, for the second input text, we can do the same thing. Go to phone number, make this as disabled and read only. Scroll down. If you want to style, we can style this as per the requirement. You can select this for the small and the medium screens. Let me try to add this for medium as I am using the medium. But if you are using a small and the large, you can do according to the screen, the styling. Go over here, click the refresh button. Now I will click on this again, Donald O'Connell, employee. As you can see, we are getting the details that is disabled. So as I told, the styling will differ from screen to screen. So based on the look and the feel what you want for your web page, you can select this and you can try. Let me refresh this. I will uncheck that styling. Now I will click on one of the employees, that is Alana Walsh. Click on this. Yeah, we are getting the details for Alana Walsh. I will keep everything as default. I don't want to change the styling. Now if I click on this icon, that is the close icon, it will close the dialog. Now if I click on this Herman, I am getting the details for Herman. Like this, we can have n number of details showcased over here in the form layout. Here I have provided 2 column view. If you want, you can change even the layout as well as the number of columns it has to display row wise in a form layout. Here is the assignment for you. I have modified the dialog. So whenever a user clicks on the link, so I could see email and department detail as well. You may modify the application in order to add couple of labels and the values in order to populate email and department. Also, I have modified the styling for this table so that there is a space of 10 px. Even you can add more as well. So here you can pause this video for a couple of minutes. You can go back to your application, modify the things, test on your own, then resume the video. I hope you have modified the application and you are able to achieve the use case. Now I will show you what I have done. I will scroll down and I will show you the table. I have copied this label value, what I had done for phone number, for email and department as well, wherein I have modified the ID with the dialog more detailed email. This is the ID name and I have added same for. Coming to the value what I have mapped, it is same thing. So in this object we are having phone number as well as email, and the department as well same. Now I have copy pasted the label value, label input text from above phone number. I modified the things. Now I will show you how to add that space above the table. Scroll towards the table. It's over here. I have added the style, that is margin at the top is 10 px. I hope you have enjoyed building this web page. Suppose if there is a requirement to export the data whatever is populated in this table in the CSV file on click of the button, how can we achieve that? We are going to look into this in this class. So for that purpose, I'm going to create a button over here on click of which will download all the data present in the table in a CSV file, and then we will view that file and cross check the details. Now let me switch over to the application, switch over to the code view. Again, it's your personal choice. If you want to modify the code with the help of design view, you can do it. Now let me add that button after this horizontal ruler. I'm giving this enter over here. First of all, there is no out of the box feature available. So in order to achieve this functionality, we need to install a component. So click on this component section, go to browse. Here we need to search for export. There you will find export data. Click on install. You can go through the terms and condition of usage of this component. Click on I have reviewed and accepted the license agreement. After going through this agreement clause, click on install. Minimize this layout, component view. Now here we have to search for export component. So export component will be visible. Just drag it and drop it over here after div. So this has added this OJ sample export data. If we switch back to design view, it will show us the button. As you can see, a button has been added over here. Now click on this, scroll down. Let me make this as outline button. Okay, done. What name we want to add for this? I am hard coding it over here. As of now, I am going to write as employee CSV. So the maximum record what we want in this CSV file, I am hard coding it to 10,000. I don't want more than 10,000 records in the CSV file. So button text, I am writing export to CSV. Now just scroll down. We will add the icon before the text over here. In order to do that, click on this plus button over here. Click on icon. So if you click on this icon, you will see a default image icon is added. I don't want this icon to be added over there. I'm removing this class from here. I'm switching over to Oracle Images page. Here I will add the class for this icon, that is oj-ux ICO download. So this I will add it over here. Click on enter. As you can see, I am getting this icon. Now click on the back button. Now we need to assign the data for this export variable. Click on this data for the button. Here we need to add the data source. So the table data will be present in SDP. I am going to add it over here. That is the employee list SDP. Click on save. So here we need to add the fields. Click on plus. Click on that arrow mark. Here we have to select which field from that SDP. I need the ID, and in Excel sheet or the CSV file, I want this to be represented with ID header. Other fields available in that employee business object is first name, last name, email, phone, hire date, salary, and department. Copy this. Also, you can verify it with the help of business object. Click on this business object, click on employee, go to data. Here you will find the details for all the fields available. So I will add one by one everything. I will select first name from here, go to main start. Here the type I am selecting this as ID is a number, selecting number. Go back, click on plus. Click on arrow. Field I am giving first name. Header I want this as first name. Type I am giving as string. Go back. Now I will add one more field over here. So I will populate second name. So I will get the second name field name from here, from the business object. That is the last name. Go to main start. In the field, I will add the field name. Header text I will give as last name, and the type is string. Select the string. Okay, fine. So we have added 3 fields. Let me add one more field over here. That is for salary. So header value, it should be salary. Type is, I'm giving this as a number. Go back. And last field I'm going to add is department. Header text, I want this to be represented with department in caps. Okay, and the type is of type number. Done. Go back. Now let's preview this. Okay, there is one extra field added. Let me delete this before viewing. Okay, let me click on this preview button. As you can see, our export to CSV button is highlighted along with the icon. On click of the export to CSV button, it should download the CSV file to my local computer with all the details whatever is populated in this table. I'm clicking on this button. It has downloaded the employee.csv. This is the name what I had given while configuring this button. Click on open file. As you can see, I'm getting the details for ID, first name, last name, salary, and the department. Whatever I have set in the header text, it is coming over here, and with the data. Data will be exactly similar to what it is shown over here, from 100 to 206. 100 to 206. There are 13 employees. In our course, so far we have studied how we can build a web page similar like this, wherein we had seen how we can populate the data from the business object. We had created a search criteria with the help of this collapsible layout. But have you ever wondered how this header and at the bottom there is a footer, this is created? We have not created this, still we are able to see those. Now let's see how these headers and footers are created in all the pages whatever we create in our application. Let's now head over to our Visual Builder app. So till now we have just seen how we can create a web app within the flow. So this main is nothing but a flow, and this is a web page within this flow. In other words, this is a page. So if I click on this main and go to settings, here you will see what is the default page in this flow. So this is the default page as of now, main-start. If we create other pages within this flow, then you can make any other page within this flow as your start page. Now I will show you how this flow will be invoked whenever this application is launched. That is, whenever we click on this preview button, we always see that main.start getting launched. If we have other pages, then we need to know how we can change those. Suppose if we create more than one page within the flow, then we have to set which page from the drop down. Whatever you see over here, currently I'm having only one page, so you are seeing only one. If you have multiple, then we can select which is the starting page of this flow. Now let me show you how this header and the footer is generated. So if you expand these root pages, there is this shell. So this shell page is responsible for creating the header and footer. Whatever we create in the shell page, it will reflect in all the pages whatever we create within this application. Yeah, our shell page has loaded. If you see, there is a footer. Let me minimize this layout. So if I minimize, I could see this header and the footer, which we have not created in our pages. But in shell, as I told, there is an option to create this header and footer, and that will reflect across all the pages. This is not only limited to header and footer. Suppose if you want anything on the right side to be displayed, like for example, if you want to display an ad or any other details, you can always do that by creating it in a shell. So here the middle region, whatever you see over here, this is the playground area wherein we drop the components while we create the page. Like for example, if I click on this main start, so this is that plain section wherever we drag and drop the components by looking at the components page over here and drop. Like we had dropped this collapsible, export, table and all. So this area is available for us to play, but we cannot edit this from the page. So in order to edit, we have to always go to this shell page and modify. Like for example, I can select this. As of now, if I select this, it is showing as shell header. Now let's go to the code view and see what is this shell header. As you can see, this shell header is nothing but the fragment. So we'll learn what is fragment as well in our subsequent classes. In short, fragments are nothing but we create the reusable component of UI called a fragment, and we can consume that in all the places. Suppose I want to embed a Google map, so I create a fragment, and that is nothing but it's again a fragment is nothing but similar like a page, but it is a portion of the page, like it will occupy this area or this area, something like this. Or if you want to populate any data in a table, we can do it in a fragment, and we can paste that fragment in any other places. Similarly, the same concept is being used over here. Let me show you where is this fragment. If I expand this fragments, there is this shell footer and shell header. Those fragments we need to create on our own. In our case, as we had used the default template, it came with the default VBCS application template. Let me open this header. The header page has been loaded. Let me minimize this layout. Now if you see, so we have opened the shell header fragment. So fragment is nothing but, again, this is a web page, but as you see, it occupies only this portion of the page. Okay, so we have designed only to occupy at the top section. Now if you see this is again the component, that is the bar row. If we search, we will get over here the bar. So it's like this, and again this is the heading what we had seen, where we had created the size criteria and we had made it 86. Again, this is the icon, that is nothing but UX ICO box, and those are the toolbar and the buttons within those toolbar, and this is the avatar component. We will discuss all those things, what is avatar and all, how we can put our image on this avatar, all those things we will look in detail. So this was for the header, and I will show you for the footer as well. Let me open this shell.footer. So the header fragment is responsible for creating those things like the icon, the name, and the toolbar, and within the toolbar we are having couple of buttons, and then the avatar and the user profile avatar over here. Here is the shell footer fragment. If you see, this occupies this portion of the screen. Now it depends on where we drop this fragment. Now if you see, these are individual components, like this is a image, the top portion. Now if you go to the code, you can see properly. As you can see, it is within this footer element, and it in there is an image. Okay, we'll look at how to load this image in our project and how we can consume that over here. Then we are having couple of things over here, that is the link which will route to about page. Again, this text is added in the translations. We'll look at how we can customize this string rather than hard coding. As of now, we had seen only how to hard code the string in our pages. We have not seen how we can translate. So this will be helpful when we localize our web pages. Then we have other links over here. This we can customize. Suppose we want to add the contact details page link, about section link, careers page, other things. Based on our requirement, we can do so. And then comes the copyright disclaimer things. We can add it over here. Now let me go back to the design. Now you will get a doubt, like once we create the fragments, how we can add it in a start page. Now if I go to this shell page, as I told, shell page is responsible for creating a general layout which will reflect in across the pages whatever we create in the application. Suppose I want to drop a fragment, I can search here with the name fragment. So there is a section called as fragment. This will reflect only if we have created a fragment over here in our projects by clicking on plus. We will see how we can create a fragment from scratch in our future classes in this course. Suppose I create a new fragment, then that particular fragment will be visible over here. Now suppose if I want to drop a footer, I can drop it over here. Like this we can drop a fragment. Since already it is dropped, I won't modify this shell page because it will break our other pages. Now in our next class, we will learn how we can change this name in the header. We will put the icon of our company. We will customize this links, wherein we will route those links to our blogspot and YouTube channel, and also we'll change these icons. Avatar we won't modify in this class, but later sometime we will consider this class as well. And in the footer, we will add this about will rename this, and the created by all those things will rename, but we won't route this anywhere as of now. Just we will rename and keep it as is. But later in the course, we will modify this about section as well, wherein we will replace this image and put it over here, so that this area will be reflected in background with the image instead of a solid color. In this class, we'll learn how we can rename this my application, and we'll put some other thing over here. We'll replace this logo with our company logo, and we'll also replace those icons over here. Now let's switch over to our application. Now in order to modify those things, as I discussed in a previous class, so we have to go to shell. Now in shell, we had seen this is built with the help of fragments, that is shell header. Now let me open this shell header. Now in order to know from where this data comes, we have to click on this section, and if you scroll down, you will get the details. Now the text is my application in this. Let me go to code view. Let me just drag this over here. As we can see on the UI as well, that is the graphical view over here. So text is hard coded to my application. Now instead of this, I will add like learning visual builder from scratch. I'm going to name something like this, learning visual builder from scratch. Let me just drag it to right and see. So our changes are reflecting fine. So title I won't change, and also this classes I won't change as of now. If you want to change, you can change the class as well for this particular heading. So next comes the logo. In order to refer the logo, we need an image. So as it is showing over here, please change the following for company specific logo. Now I will comment out this pan area. So it is added just for our reference purpose, so that we can change this in future. Now as I have removed this or commented out this pan, I want the image section to be added over here. Now I have to search for image in the components. So there is this image under common. Select this and drop it over here. Our image section got added over here. If we go to design and see, it will reflect over there as well. Let me go to design. As you can see, we can see the question mark over here because we have not yet selected the image for this image layout. So before selecting the image for this, under data, we have to upload the image to our project. Now I have already downloaded a logo. This is the company logo which I am going to upload. Now in order to upload any image to our application, we have to expand these resources. There is this section called images. Expand this. Click on this plus button. Here we need to click on this drag and drop option, or we can just drag a file from here and drop it over here in this section. I'm going to click on this and select the file. Once done, click on import. So we have uploaded our company logo. It will be visible under images, which is under resources. That is the company logo. Let me minimize this layout. Now click on this, go to data. Here there is an option to provide the source URL. If you are referring the image from any website like a Google Images or somewhere else, you can just directly provide the URL of that image over here. Since I have uploaded the image locally in the application, I am selecting that image by clicking on this icon. Here our company logo we have to select. It will display the preview over here before selecting. Click on select. Yeah, our company logo has been added. Now let us style this. Go to all, expand the general attributes, scroll down. There should be a section called as style. It's over here. Let me restrict the height of this to it's over here. Let me change to 30 px. Go to design. Yeah, now it looks fine. But the learning visual builder from scratch, this text looks little attached to this image. Now we'll add the margin on the left side for this heading. Let me go to code. Here is our heading. Now let me scroll towards right. Here I will add the style. Also we can select this, go to all section, there will be style what we have seen. There also we can add, else we can type like this. Here I am going to add margin on the left to 5 pixel. Done. Go to design and verify. Now as you can see there is a gap. Now it's not very much visible over here. Let me preview this in the browser. As you can see in the browser window, our logo is visible over here and the name of the app is updated. Go back to application, go back to code again. So in the margin left, I have not mentioned the number. So looks like it got wiped off. Just save, go to design. So because of which it was not displaying the exact space between the title of this application and the logo. Now let me refresh this page. Now as you can see there is a space, little bit of space between a logo and the name of this application. Now we'll see how we can change the icons on this right side in our next class. In this class we'll look at how we can update these buttons over here or the icons. Now in order to know from where the data comes for these icons, we need to go to code view. Scroll down. So it's under toolbar. So this comes from the variable that is global header ADP, and they have used for each. For each is another construct that is used to loop over the array. Here they have used the ADP. We'll look at how to work with array data providers. We have only seen SDPs, that is service data provider, when we worked with table component. Here if you see for each, there is a for each component which is used to iterate over the array. Now we'll go to this global header variables. It is at the application level. Now click on this web applications. So this is our application. Click this. Just minimize this layout. Go to variables. So that data was coming from global headers ADP. Now click on this. Now the global header ADP, in turn, it is referring to the variable that is global headers data. Now it is also visible over here. It is over here, global headers data. Let me click on this. This is of type array. Now our toolbar is referring to this variable. This variable is built with the help of this array variable. Now if we scroll down, there is the data over here. Now let me copy this from here. Copy and go to Oracle images. Now what we have copied, we can search over here. It will show us the icons. Now I will search for the icon class which was copied from application. As you can see, it is this one which we had seen in our application, that is this one. Now I will change this with the YouTube icon. I will search for YouTube. It's over here. Just copy this class, copy, go to application and replace with this one. Here in ID, I am changing it to YouTube. Example, also I am naming this as YouTube. Done. Next is our website. I am naming this to website and ID to website. So icon, we'll just see how we can add the icon. So let's see if there is any icon for blog. There is a blogger website and there is this one. Now I will copy this class from here, go to application and will replace this over here. So our website is nothing but a blog. Let's rename this to blog only. Okay. And the last thing is we can have this for future purpose. As of now, I'll name this as website, or instead we can refer to Google. I'm naming this to Google. Google. Let me see if there is any Google icon over here. Yeah, there is a Google icon. Let me copy this. Copy. Go to application and paste it over here. Yeah, done. Let me copy everything from here and save in a notepad, because this will save our time every time we come over here and refer to each and every detail. Let's now go back to our application. Go back to our shell header. Now if you see, the icons are reflecting, that is for YouTube, blog, and this one. I think this is not reflected. Let me just verify. Let's copy this again. Go to application. Yeah, it didn't get updated. Let me update it again. Looks like there is some issue with my network. It didn't get saved. Copy pasted. Okay, done. Let me go back to header. Now, as you can see, we are having a YouTube icon, blog, and the Google. Now, on click of this, it has to take us to those respective websites. Now, we can do this with the help of events. Go to code. Let me scroll down and check where is those button. It's over here, the button. You can click this. And we need to create an event. Go to events, scroll down, click plus new event on OJ action. So this is going to create an action chain for us. We'll create one input parameter which will send us the name of the button for which we have clicked. Now here I will add the button name. We will name everything in a camel case as we have discussed in our beginning of this course. Click on create. Now we'll look at how we can pass those variables from the event when it gets triggered from our web page. So next thing is we have to route. So this routing will happen based on the condition. Now I will drop the if condition over here. Now it will check based on the condition how to route. So here we are checking whether the button name is equal to, I had saved this in my notepad. I will copy this YouTube. Within quotes, I will use this one. It will check whether this is YouTube. If yes, then I will route it to YouTube. Let me use open URL navigation icon over here. Drop it over here. Select this component and in the URL, I will paste the URL of our YouTube channel. Done. Suppose if it is not YouTube, then again we are going to check. Select this if and drop it in the false. Now select this if, go to conditions, use the expression builder. Here we are going to check whether the button clicked for blog. Copy this and paste it within the double quotes. Click on save. So if it is for blog, then I am opening my blog website. Then drop the open URL component over here or the action. Select this and in the URL paste the website link. I have added the WordPress blog page URL over here. Now in case it's not for blog or YouTube, we'll open Google. So select this and drop it under false. Now click on this component and in the URL provide the URL of Google. Done. Now we are done with completing this action chain. Now let us go back, click on this back action button, go to fragment designer. Now click on this button and see whether it's reflecting any input parameters over here, what we created. It's not reflecting, just refresh this web page. Click on refresh in your browser. Once the browser refreshes the page, you will see the button name what we had created within the action chain, that is over here under input parameters. Click on this assign. We need to map name to button name. I'm just dragging and dropping this over here. So it will map. So in the name, we are having those details like blog, YouTube and Google, for which we have put the validations. Click on save. Once done, I will preview this page. So our web page has been loaded. Now if I click on this YouTube, it has to take me to YouTube website. I'm clicking on this YouTube. Yeah, it's opening the YouTube channel. Yeah, it has opened the YouTube channel successfully. Let me go back. Now I will click on this website. I'm clicking on this blog button over here. This should take me to our blog WordPress website. As you can see, it has routed us to blog. Now let me go back. Now the last button which I have to test is this Google. Click on this. I will click on this. It has to take me to google.com. Yeah, it is taking me to google.com. So like this, we can customize the header in VBCS application. In this class, we will look at how we can customize this footer. So we will not dig much into this as we had seen in detail how we can customize the header. So we'll just try to rename those things and the copyright message. Now let's switch over to our Visual Builder application. So I'm here in the shell footer. This is the fragment which we had seen in our previous classes. Now if I click on this, it is a hyperlink. So it's not routing me anywhere. If you want to provide the URL, we can provide it over here. As of now, it's given as hash. So what we'll do is we'll route all those links to google.com as of now. So the about section I will remove and put it google.com's URL. Footer, this I will remove and I will rename it to something else. I will remove this and put contact us. Done. Just tab out. Yeah, it has updated a value over here. Now click on this. This also I will make it to route it to Google. So at the end of this course, we'll try to modify this footer as well. Now the footer item 2, click on data. This also I will route it to google.com. Go to general. Instead of footer item 2, I will name this as carriers page. Go to third footer item. So here, instead of this, I will modify and write projects. What and all projects we are undertaking, we will make a catalog of this. Over here, on click of this button, it has to route us to that catalog page. Now the last thing is created by us. If you click on this, if you see, it is not hard-coded value, rather it comes from the translations app file. So in order to go there, just click on this web applications. Previously we had seen under resources images. I will minimize this. Go to strings, expand apps. expand NLS, expand the root. So here there is a file called as app-strings.json. Now go back to our footer again. Here if you see, it comes from app_footer_copyright. Now in the app-strings.json, you have to locate this where it is. It's over here, that is app_footer_copyright. Now it's written as created by Binam Learning. I will put the space and write created by Binam Learning for learning purpose. So I am modifying this. So description, if you want, you can change if any. Again, other details like sign out, application navigator, drawer, about section, all those things also we can modify. So I will modify this to about us. Done. Let me go back to footer. As you can see, our details are updated, like created by Binam Learning for learning purpose, about us, it's reflected over here, projects, career, and contact us. Like this, we can modify a footer. Also, we will preview this in a browser. Our web page is loading. I will scroll down, and if you see, it has updated the links for us in the footer section. Now, I will try to click on this about us. It has to take us to google.com. I'm clicking on this link. Yeah, it is taking me to google.com. So like this, we can customize footer section in our Visual Builder application. We have come a long way in this course learning different concepts, but we had not seen how we can stage or publish the application so that we can embed this page in some other application, or we can share the link with the customers or the partners so then they can make use of this website. Now, if you click on the preview button on the application, it will open this in a different page in a browser. If I copy the URL and show you in the notepad, if I copy and paste, you will see there is a preview over here, and it's not always advisable to share the preview. It looks like it is still under development. Now we'll look at how we can stage and publish, and we can share the actual live URL with our partners. So in detail documentation on how to stage and publish is mentioned over here. What is stage, what is publish, everything is over here documented. You can have a look at this. Stage is basically, it is used once the development is done, we can share this staged application URL with our team members, basically your team lead or some other person who is higher in your hierarchy in the organization, so that they can validate the things. Once it gets approved, we can publish and share that URL. That is a live URL, and we can use that for embedding in another application, or we can share it with our customers. Now I am switching back to my application. So for that, we have to go back to main screen of Oracle Visual Builder applications. As of now, I am having only one application over here. There is an option over here with hamburger menu icon. Click on this and select stage. Here it will ask you, your application in development will be deployed to stage. Now if you select stage application with clean database, no business object data will be copied from development to stage. We have imported the data with the help of CSV in the business object. Suppose if you want a clean business object wherein a user will enter the data into business objects, then we can go for this approach. I'm not going for this. I want development data to be in stage, as we don't have any create record in business object done as of now in our web page. I'm selecting populate stage with development data and clicking on stage. So our application has got stage, and you can see the status is selected as stage, and also the icon will change to teams. Under development, you are the developer, you are responsible for developing, and you will preview the application. Now if you click on the stage, you will get a URL. Click on this. This will open a page in a different window. Yeah, this has loaded our page. Let me copy the URL and show you in the notepad the difference between stage and preview URL. So let me name this. This is a preview one and the below one is for the stage. Now if you observe, the difference is over here is the preview is having a preview written over here, and in stage we don't find the stage written anywhere in the URL. Rest everything is same. Now I will write publish and we'll get the publish URL as well. Now once our team approves the changes done in the web page or the web application, then we can publish our application. In order to publish, we have to again go to actions over here and click on publish. Here it's again asking your application in stage will be moved to live. Business object data include data from stage. Publish application with the clean database. I don't want to wipe off the data from the business object. I want to go ahead publishing my application with the data whatever it had in the stage. That is over here. This is the stage and it had few details for the employees. I'm selecting this and clicking on publish. Again, to deploy data with clean database or with the development data, it solely depends upon the project what you are working for. Now, if you see, the status is changed to right mark and the status is written as live. If you click on this, you will get an option over here in the pop-up. Click on this, it will open a different window in your browser and it will open the web page. It has opened the live page for our application. I'm selecting this URL, copying and showing in the notepad in order to know what is the difference it has made. Now, if you closely observe, this version has gone from the URL. Instead, we are having a live. Okay, rest everything is same. So this is the difference between preview URL, staged URL and the published URL of our web application. So it's always advisable to share the published URL once you complete your application. So this is the same URL what we will use in order to embed our application in Fusion or any other applications. So this completes one of the sections of this course. So we'll continue enhancing our web application, the same web application wherein we will create some other pages and we'll see some more components in our future sections.